I'm Coach Dave. Welcome back to Coach's Corner.
Come on.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good evening. Coach Dave McDonough, Coach's Corner podcast. Today, we're bringing back one of my main guys here. With the way combat sports is going and, boxing, a lot of stuff happening here, not only in the state of Connecticut and New York, but we got a lot of big stuff to talk about here. I got my man Dylan Napoleon from Dylan Napoleon MMA, Cage Size Press, here again today. We're going to kind of talk about what's going on with MMA, because we have a lot of stuff happening here, not only in our state, but, nationwide. And I guess the first thing is that we'll hit, and thanks again, Dylan, for coming down. Appreciate you. And, see you're out there doing a lot of great stuff, working the events, making a name for yourself, doing some great things out there. Obviously the big news is UFC merger.
Yep.
$7.7 billion with Paramount and CBS. Thoughts on that, man?
I like it, man. I think it's super cool because, I always knew growing up, a lot of the problem for people was like paying $80, $90, whatever it may be for these pay-per-views. And personally, I think it's safe to say that more people would watch it on these streaming sites than they would the real way, which defeats the whole purpose, right? So now that you have something that's way more affordable for fans and stuff like that, I think it helps everybody. And people are just going to watch the sport the way they should. And the UFC is going to benefit from that. Of course, the athletes will, and the fans will too. They have a better way and a cheaper, more accessible way to watch these fights. And at the end of the day, that's the name of the game, right? Easy, inexpensive. So if everybody's happy, the fans are happy, the UFC's happy, Paramount, CBS, everybody's happy. I love it, man. That's the name of the game,
Yeah, I think what we're seeing here is to get out into a bigger market. The hardcore combat sport fans, MMA fans, they're going to watch.
Right.
They're going to watch on UFC Fight Pass. They're going to pay for the pay-per-view. They're going to go to places that are holding the event, pay for it. They're there, right? So they're. But now, like every other sport, you become mainstream. And I think we see a little bit of the Jake Paul effect here. What MMA, what Dana did. Jake Paul going to Netflix for his last two events.
Yeah.
And, the first event was a little shaky with Mike Tyson.
Right.
As the production of the event wasn't. But the last event, with the women's event,
Insane.
Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano, plus the undercard and the way he promoted the whole thing, I mean, everybody has Netflix.
Yeah. I think that's a good point, too, because with the pay-per-view, it wasn't as easy as just going on to a channel. You had to sign in and stuff like that. I know you will with Paramount, too. But I feel like with Paramount, you watch it on the phone, you watch it on the TV, and I know you can with ESPN too, but it was just another, it was the $90. People didn't want to have to go through all that, and the $80. So
yeah, the one time hit,
right, every single card.
Every card, right?
Yeah.
So you do it that way. The other aspect of it is that, you can go back now, like if you miss the fight, it stays, so you can pull it back up. Like, it'll stay in the history, so you can watch it over and over again if you want.
Right.
If you want to watch one bout or you miss it, or you want to just rewatch it again and say, hey man, I was, that's, I think that aspect of it is also, a good part. But we also see come into play the mainstream TV. Forget about the app CBS is going to pick up. And we're not seeing combat sports, barely seeing boxing. Now, ESPN has pulled out. We're not going to see any more boxing on ESPN. I don't know if we'll see an event on one of the major brand television, ABC, NBC, or CBS ever again. Right. I don't know.
Right.
I can't say that. Nobody has a deal. Right now it's DAZN, who's carrying so many events.
Right.
Or pay-per-view. Netflix, obviously, with Jake Paul. But, I think, look, still having access to network TV is a big platform also.
Yeah. I think it's exciting. I think it's going to be really cool. I'm looking forward to getting my Paramount subscription for sure. I don't know how much it's going to be, but I know if there's 4 cards in 1 month, one every week or two in 1 month, whatever it may be, you're going to be able to watch every card under this membership. So, Fight Pass is one membership, then pay-per-view is a whole nother price every month. So now you only have to pay one price, which is going to be far less than the pay-per-view alone, and you're going to be able to watch everything,
Yeah, and then, like you said, it's going to trickle down to the fighters, the promotion. I think it was, a great move on Dana White's part as far as coming up with this. Anxious to see how he kind of gets it off the ground, because I think you're going to try to see a lot of people follow what he's doing after this. You know what I'm saying? And it's going to be interesting to see what boxing does after this, as far as if they're going to follow. And I know Dana's putting his hands into the boxing world too. So it's going to be interesting to see how this kind of plays out with all the major players in combat sports. But putting that aside, we got a busy month here in Connecticut.
Yeah.
And you and I have been, at a lot of shows together. You're obviously covering not only the national scene now of UFC, but anything local in the combat MMA sports. So, let's kind of like end this last 2-week period. A lot of local fighters fighting. A lot of local fighters on big events. I mean, let's kick it from last Saturday night on CES Promotion.
Yeah.
We had Quentyn Paisley out of Fighting Arts Academy, Nick Newell's gym. Reggie Carvali out of Glover Texera's gym, fighting on that card in Foxwood, both bringing big wins. A lot of local amateurs that broke their cherry on that, and some other local MMA fighters. I'm not as well versed as probably as you,
right?
But let's talk about Quentyn Paisley first. I'm a little closer on that because I am fortunate enough to be blessed to work with Quentyn and Nick and Roger Denton over there. Nick Newell and Roger Denton at a Fighting Arts Academy. Blessed to be part of that team. Thoughts on that event, on that fight? What were you thinking on that? And unfortunately, he lost his original opponent, who was one of Glover's guys.
Right.
Which is still, I think, going to be a fight that's out there to be made.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be a great fight if it happens, right? So we had a gentleman come in who was a boxer. Took the fight on last minute. Tell me your thoughts of that fight.
It was a really good fight. Quentyn did what Quentyn does. Quentyn goes out and knocks people out, and usually he does it very quickly, and he did this fight too, but he got to show a little bit more. It was the first time in a minute that I've seen Q get any sort of time on the ground, and what he did with that was he made himself look very comfortable. He was very comfortable, for lack of a better word, but he knocked his opponent down. And then, I don't know how the fight got to the ground. I totally blank on that. But what Q did was...
The opponent came at Quentyn, tried to put him down.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And we were kind of surprised at that because, I kind of felt that he was going to come at Quentyn and, try to throw a big overhand left hook at him and get him out early.
Yeah.
We didn't expect him to come to the ground, but, Quentyn made a great adjustment.
And when he did, the slam is what I was getting at. I forgot how the slam happened, but the guy was trying to get back up. Q grabbed him around the waist and slammed him, and it was a strong slam, and that was cool to see from Q because I know he's got it in him. I get to see him work a little bit here and there, and I knew he was capable of that. But a lot of times, like last fight especially, he kept it standing, and he just with ease knocked his opponent out. And Q's a very good fighter. I expected that to happen this time, but for him to show us a little bit on the ground and look very comfortable while doing it, I just think it's good for him to show that. And he could have finished the fight on the ground, I fully believe, but he got the fighter got back up, and Q finished it on the feet. So it was a great performance. Q had options in that fight. I think, you know, he could have submitted the dude. He could have ground and pounded. He opted for the knockout though. He got it, and that's what Quentyn does. Now he's getting ready for a return October 4th, I believe. Reality is going to have a bunch of other great fighters from Connecticut on it, and that's going to be a special card too. I think it's going to be a good night of fights.
Yeah, a lot of talk there with Reality coming up at October 4th. Reggie Carvali.
Yeah, he's a special fighter too. He came off a loss. He lost his title back in earlier this year. But what he did, he came back out. Now I gotta call him out a little bit, only for funny things, because I did an interview with him in the gym a couple weeks before the fight, and he told me, I was like, you know, what do you think about this fight, or something along the lines of that? How do you envision this, something? And he almost promised the knockout, and I know he was looking for the knockout, but he got the opportunity to finish the fight on the ground, and he took it, a beautiful rear naked choke. But that just goes to show he adapted, and although his game plan was to strike with the dude and knock the dude out, he saw the opportunity to finish the fight.
I mean, watching the fight, I got to watch the fight. I thought Reggie was striking really well.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, like, I didn't speak to him. I know you interviewed those guys. You work with Glover's team. You do a lot of interviews and a lot of stuff over there. Shout out to Glover Teixeira and his gym, Teixeira MMA. But, you know, I was watching Reggie's jab. He established it very well. I thought that he could have been putting a little bit more of his combinations together in the knockout with a cam, because the jab that he was throwing was just backing the guy up. It was faster than what his opponent kind of expected. So I thought that there were times that Reggie could have added a punch or two in the knockout when it came.
Yeah.
But you know what? Hey, combat sports, MMA, you know, it's three-dimensional. You know what I mean? That's what makes it so interesting. You know, you adapt to what your opponent gives you at that moment, and you take that, and, you know, it is what it is. And, you know, back to Quentyn real quick, just to kind of segue back in a second. You know, Quentyn came back and said, you know, I really I wanted to box a little bit more. I didn't get the opportunity. Doesn't matter. I get it. But you know what? You got to win.
That's the most important.
You know what I'm saying?
Part.
It's like, you know, whatever way the win comes, the win comes. You know, if it's a submission, you know, if it's a knockout,
right,
whatever it is, you know. It's a tap out. It don't matter. You know, let's get it.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
Let's get it. So, you know, two big fights there. Anybody else on that card that you saw that maybe that was of an interest to you? Because those were, you know, working Quentyn's fight, and then obviously Reggie's were the only ones that I really.
Right. I give you two more that interested me coming into. Actually, one of them interested me coming into fight night, and the other one just caught my eyes on fight night due to the performance. But number one is Asia Cortez versus Erica Valentin. Asia Cortez came all the way from Florida, and she trains at American Top Team with some amazing fighters. Dakota Ditcheva, she's a part of that team, and there's many other female fighters from that gym that they get working together, and they're all great fighters. But she came up to Connecticut, and I had watched her fight before in Bellator. It was in California last year, maybe even the year before. That was her professional debut, and she was brought in to fight another girl who was also from California, and it was a great fight. But Asia, she didn't get her hand raised that night, so I knew she was good and stuff. And like, when a fighter has an 0-1 record, like, it's kind of it's tough because they haven't gotten their first victory yet. But I knew she was good, so she came into this fight. Don't know what CES was expecting from her, but I knew she was going to be good. She came in, took on the Connecticut fighter. 3 rounds, dominant unanimous decision, 30-26 across the board, dominant unanimous decision. So I was kind of impressed, but I'm not going to lie. Like, I knew she was good coming into this fight. So I kind of, you know, I knew when you bring a fighter all the way from Florida or California to fight in Connecticut, I think it's almost safe to say that they're the B-side fighter. And, she came up. I think it was an upset. You know, it was definitely an upset. She earned her first professional victory, and she showed up. So I really liked that out of her. And then Anthony Oelli, he's from Connecticut, and what a dude, that guy. He's a 170, I think, super strong fighter. Never spoke to him before. I personally haven't, but his performance caught my eye. And if he sees the shout out, bro, that was a damn good performance. Quick finish, and he looks strong in there. I think he's a promising fighter. I'm looking forward to seeing what his career develops into, or how this plays out for him.
Yeah, I mean, back to the women's fight. I saw some clips on the CES Instagram, and I want to go back and watch. Those two ladies look like they were banging out.
They were. It was a great fight. Asia Cortez had the wrestling coach Steve Mako, the mastermind of wrestling, in her corner. And Mako, I don't know him personally either, but I know he's a great coach from American Top Team. His son is a world-class wrestler in college right now. I think he's going into his freshman year. I've been following his career a little bit too, but Mako's actually here in Danbury right now, actually doing a seminar at Glover's Gym. Now that just came to my mind. But yeah, he's an elite wrestling coach. She had him. She was listening to his direction. I was kind of in the back of the corner, and it was impressive to see how well she reacted to his direction because he was loud. He was in my ear, and I could hear everything from the corner. So it was cool to see how she reacted. I saw it all play out, and she puts together a great fight. Hats off to both of them. They fought hard and stuff like that, but Asia Cortez impressed me that night for sure. She's 1-1 as a pro right now. She's gonna be good.
I mean, from a fan, I thought that was one of the better shows CES had put on. It was sold out, packed arena. Probably one of the better cards. I got to see a couple of the amateur shows waiting. I don't know who the players were. Pretty competitive.
Yeah. I want to give one quick little bit of recognition or just a little moment. There's a kid from my high school, Josh Morales. He fought on the amateur card. He was the first fight of the night. There was couple cool things about that fight. Number one, my town, and I went to school in Beacon Falls, but we regionalized. Since Beacon Falls is such a small town, we go to school with another town, and the amount of people that I saw from our area was super dope. They came out to support Josh Morales in his pro debut. Came up short, but I think the pro debut going 3 rounds, and I think you would attest to this, totally off topic, but like going 3 rounds in your debut, no matter it's boxing or MMA, can serve as like one of the most valuable things in terms of a fighting career. Like, you go out there, you get a finish in 10 seconds. That's pretty damn cool. It's a highlight reel and stuff like that. But the lessons that come from, 3 tough rounds, and he went to war. So hats off to him. I think it'll only help him in his career. But I was really cool to see me as a reporter, Jesse James Kozakowski as a professional MMA fighter, and this kid Josh Morales as an amateur fighter. We all come from the same high school, all a couple years apart. But it's just cool to see another dude from our high school doing the damn thing.
Yeah, and then that goes back to our state again, right? The state of Connecticut. Not only in boxing, we got a lot of fighters out there right now doing their thing in the boxing world, and we could talk about that a little bit too. But MMA right now is just becoming a bigger, to see Saturday night's venue and a lot of local fighters in there, talented local fighters. It's going to be exciting to see what CES, my buddy Jimmy Birchfield and his team does with the MMA side of his business and, CES promotion. And, shout out to my guys at CES, love them up there. But, it's really exciting.
Yeah.
We'll throw another one in, which, Yuri Panarov, fought on UFC Contender Tuesday night. Got a win.
He got a great win.
I mean, I was blessed to have helped him throughout his camp, him and his coach, Andrew. Shout out to those guys over there. Congratulations. Great job on both of you, getting the win. Unfortunately, I know you didn't walk out with your contract, which was what you wanted to get. But I think you did show everybody that you are a UFC fighter. I mean, Yuri, from a coach's standpoint, is just another one of those guys out of Connecticut. He is a tough kid.
Yes.
Heavy-handed, great wrestler. He is working with him, a true professional. As far as his preparation, the way he takes it, it's going to be exciting to see what's next for him. I don't know if you got to see that fight.
I did.
Tell me your thoughts on that, and tell me a little bit about what you felt about the card.
So, funny story. I was on my way to do my interview with Justin Sumpter that night.
Yeah, we were watching it in the gym prior to when you came in.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes perfect sense. You were there that night, yeah. So, let's talk about Justin in a minute, too. Tonight's a special
absolutely.
night.
I was keeping him towards,
the end because it's so recent. But Yuri Panarov went out there. Dana White's Contender Series. It was his first or second opportunity on Contender Series. And he didn't get the contract. But the performance that he showed, his takedowns were there. He was landing some real good shots on the feet. He showed a very well-rounded style, and he beat a guy who knows how to strike. That dude has some power, and if I'm not mistaken, he's known to be a really good striker. I'm pretty sure that's the biggest threat he possesses as a fighter. But Yuri mixed it up really well. His takedowns were there, stuff like that, and he did well. I know when you go to Dana White's Contender Series, these Dana White and the UFC, they're really looking for exciting finishes and stuff like that. So I think Yuri learns, a little bit from this and what maybe Dana White was exactly looking for. I know it's also tough when you have such a great fighter standing across the cage from you. So I think I think the finishes are so important in Dana White's Contender Series. If not, you're really gambling on yourself. But great performance. I think I said to somebody after, I think, Yuri will be in the UFC someday. It's just a matter of time. And had he gotten the finish that night, I think 100% he would have gotten the contract. But I know the name of the game. It's an exciting show. Dana White's looking for that different, different breed, if you will. And that night, Yuri showed that he's different. But I think Dana is looking for a little bit more. I know Yuri's got it. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah, I think, like looking at the fight, I think, knowing what he worked on throughout camp and what he wanted to achieve, I think he hit a lot of, he checked a lot of boxes there as far
100%.
as that. I think he was, inches away from a knockdown.
He was 100%.
I thought a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Tough opponent, took some big shots from Yuri. My hat's off to him. I'm not taking anything away from his performance. I'm just thinking that, it was inches away, another punch here, and that fight changes, he ends the fight.
Yeah.
But, my hat's off to him.
He'll be there.
He worked hard, had a great camp, put in the work. Enjoy the victory. It's a name you're going to see again, whether we see him locally or we see him on the big stage again, but you will definitely see him out there again.
Yuri's young, too. I think he's only 28 years old. If he has one or two busy years, if you will, and gets a couple good wins in, no doubt in my mind that he'll be right back, there in the UFC. And I'm not gonna lie, dude, Dana White's Contender Series is a tough, and same with the Ultimate Fighter. Like, that's some tough going. Like, that's a tough way to earn your shot in the UFC.
Well, Dana's putting the bar high.
100%.
Let's talk about this 1 second before we move on to Justin. And this falls into your wheelhouse, right?
Yeah.
I heard the interview after the fights with Dana, and you gotta love Dana because Dana is just, he calls it as a season.
Real.
He don't sugarcoat it. You know what I mean? He's not, he wants what he wants, and he's putting a product out there, and he's setting the bar really, really high. Because if you think about all these guys out there fighting on cards and trying to get to that level, there's a lot of good fighters.
So many.
A lot of good fighters. So, after these type of fights, what do you see with these fighters when they got to go back and retool? It's not like boxing. Okay, you might miss an opportunity and look good, like, okay, and you're going to get picked up on the next card or something somewhere along the line, a big. How is it for these guys now? Now they got to go back. If they won the fight, maybe they didn't get the contract. The guys who get the contract, obviously Dana's going to put on. But you got good fighters out there. Where do we see them going after this?
So, like a guy like Yuri, you're asking, like, how does that? So, in my opinion, and I'm no manager and I'm no fighter and stuff like that, but in my opinion, he just won over a guy who the UFC also saw as UFC worthy, or right at that cusp, right? He just beat that guy, right? So in my opinion, you keep the foot on the gas. You fight another guy who should be in the UFC or is knocking on the door of the UFC. You can't really back down now. You can't really take a fighter, who's still coming up. You gotta get that guy who's almost in the UFC, and that's how you prove yourself. Because, and this is just my logic, like I said, because the UFC already had a chance of seeing Yuri. They didn't see enough. They didn't get what they wanted. So now you almost have to work even harder, because now you got to get their attention again. Number one, you got to get their interest again. And then after that, after you have the interest, you got to prove it. You know what I mean? So it's tough. It's definitely a hard road, but now is the time to just take those hard fights, keep showing what you're made of, and I think he's gonna have to beat some quality guys to get their interest again, because the UFC's cutthroat. They set the bar high, just like you said. But if he goes out there, beats a couple really, you know, talented guys that should be in the UFC, I think he'll be right there. You know, even if I don't know how highly the UFC thought of him, but guys like him, you know, people who come up just short on Contender Series, a lot of them make it back for short notice fights.
I don't think that's anything to snooze at. I mean, you're fighting top quality opponents, top quality fighters. My question to you is, are there the avenues after this to showcase yourself again?
Yeah. 100%, but you have to beat good guys.
I understand that, but do we have that type of shows that are putting people on that will see a guy like Yuri fight on again?
Yeah, 100%. Shows like LFA, Fury, LFA's coming back to Connecticut in November. That'd be a great opportunity to line up a good fighter and a showcase bout for Yuri to bounce back. But like, one thing I have to say is, like, it's tough because CES has promoted Yuri so many times, but CES isn't going to pull those guys like these world-class fighters. So he just has to make sure he's smart with his career, and he can do it. You just have to beat good guys, and that's it, you know?
Yeah. So you're mentioning, you know, we're gonna bring this right into where we are tonight. LFA, Reality, all these different promotions. Are these the promotional companies feeding underneath UFC right now? Yeah. Like, where do we rank them? Because I know Bellator is no longer. So who takes that spot?
So
and where does the UFC look at these promotional companies and say, hey, this is a good one, this one is you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Where do you rank them, and what do you see as far as these companies, these promotional companies that are under UFC as being the feeder program for UFC?
So there's a couple of them right now, to be honest. LFA has got to be the biggest. LFA is basically, if you're a great prospect and you're knocking on the steps of the UFC and you're promising and stuff like that, LFA is interested in fighters like that. Fury Fighting is another one right there. They feed, they grow so many amazing fighters that end up in the UFC. CFFC is a local organization in New Jersey. They host so many fights, but they also do things in other states too. I can't just say New Jersey, but they're all over the place, and they send a ton of fighters. There's a fighter tomorrow night fighting Hamzat Chimaev's training partner, and he came from CFFC. They feed so many from there. So LFA, Fury, CFFC, and then A1 Combat is getting up there too. That's Uriah Faber's promotion in California. They just sent a guy to the UFC. So those are the top-notch regional promotions, and it's hard to even use the word regional with a place like LFA because they're literally all over the place. But they're fighting those younger prospects that end up in the UFC, and I love that.
And we're seeing better fights now.
Fights that influence a career more than other fights, And I think when you're a guy who is right there but not there yet, those are the promotions you got to fight in. They're going to give you quality fights that literally influence your career more than any,
Yeah, no, and I like, the one thing is now I'm starting to segue myself into the MMA and the UFC combat area, working with fighters. We saw this in boxing years ago with a lot of, local regional promoters, CES, Jimmy Birchfield being one, Star Boxing, Joe DeGuardia, Lou DeBella from DeBella Entertainment. I mean, these are guys, Gary Shaw out of New Jersey, guys that, built great fighters. I mean, they've kind of gone away with the way television has gone. These guys have put great fighters on local shows that we used to see on ESPN, Friday Night Fights or Tuesday Night Fights, that, would feed into world championship fights. Now it is a little different, and I like to see that now with the MMA aspect because there's so many fighters out there.
Yeah,
I mean, I can't. I mean, I would probably say there's more MMA fighters out there right now than boxers in the country.
And that's why when you do something like Dana White's Contender Series or the Ultimate Fighter, whatever it may be, any of those like opportunities, bro, you got to set yourself apart because the UFC has so many options, you know, like it's so cutthroat. You got to be different. And that's why it's sometimes so hard for fighters to get opportunities because there's so many of them. You know, you really got to set yourself apart and prove your point. And that's the bar level that you're
Well, the
speaking
one
of.
thing is the difference, and I don't want boxing people to get mad at me here, okay? I really don't. UFC is just what you said. They set the bar. All these little guys, regional, whatever, you win the belt at UFC, you win the belt. It's not the IBF boxing title. It's not the WBA or the WBO. And no disrespect, UBO, all these little regional belts that come in that these fighters hold. To me, it's WBC in boxing. You win that belt, that's the belt. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm not taking away from the WBA or anybody else, you know, any other sanctioning bodies. But to me, the jewel is the green belt, WBC in boxing, right? So what Dana did is Dana said, look, we're not giving this out. We're not recognizing if you won the title in New England and you're the blah, blah, blah champion, doesn't mean shit on the UFC.
Right.
Right? You carry that UFC belt, you carry the UFC belt.
Right.
Okay? And I like that.
Yeah.
Because I think you are, like we said, setting the bar. And you know what? There is a criteria. Now, you could walk around and say, I fought in the UFC. Okay? I was fortunate to be a champion or made a run. Wow, that's an accomplishment.
Right.
Not to take away from these guys trying to get there. Not trying to take away from them by no means. But when you hit it and you get the ring, I got the ring.
Right.
There's only one Super Bowl.
Right.
There's only one NBA Finals, and there's only one World Series and one Stanley Cup. There's not 4 different belts for right there. You get the ring, it means something. It's forever.
100%.
And I like that.
I think that's a good point because in MMA, there's one peak, if you will. That's being a UFC champion.
Yeah.
I don't think anything in MMA, like obviously fighters will know best, but I think I've been around the sport enough to like understand that no title in MMA means nearly as much as a UFC title. Like you might win a world championship in another promotion and stuff like that, but nothing holds as much value as a UFC championship belt for sure.
Look, we go like this, right? You're a fan and you work the sport, right?
Yeah.
You know all these other little sanctioning bodies, promotional companies, regionals, blah, 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 this, right?
Mm-hmm.
The regular fan who doesn't really follow the sport, and you walk out and you got a UFC belt, they know UFC.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
No offense. Bellator was number 2.
Yeah.
Okay, the people in the sport know what Bellator was. But if you walk down the street with a Bellator belt, the average fan wouldn't even know what the hell it is.
Right.
Walk down the street with a UFC belt. Walk down the street in boxing with a WBC belt.
Yeah. No, you're
it's
right.
It's recognizable, right?
You're right.
It's recognizable.
Yeah.
So to me, I like that aspect of it, which, so we'll go here tonight as far, and this show is going to air, unfortunately, after the event happens, but, you know, we'll try to clip some of it in.
Yeah.
Here, we got a great event tonight. And, you know, we're both on different ends of the spectrum here tonight. You obviously working it from the press end. I'm obviously working it. I'm blessed to be working a corner for Justin
I'm excited.
Sumpter. Fighting out of, again, Fighting Arts Academy, Nick Newell, Roger Denton and the crew over there. We're in Times Square tonight for the, you know, we saw boxing, right? We saw boxing there in May.
Yep.
Okay? But now we got an MMA show right in the middle of Times Square.
I'm excited, bro, because you and I are going to be a part of history tonight, and the people won't see this episode until after we get to live our excitement and live through the fight and stuff like that. But that's okay. I'm still excited to share with them how we feel and what we expect tonight. But you're right, bro. It's the first time that MMA has taken to the streets of New York City, outside in Times Square.
In Times Square.
Connecticut's own Justin the Fort Sumpter's fighting tonight in the co-main event.
Co-main event.
You're in the corner. I'm going to be on the press side. It's going to be dope, bro.
Yeah, we got Connecticut representing here tonight. Victory Promotion,
actually,
right?
Victory Fighting League. But
Victory Fighting League.
yes.
Okay.
this fighter comes from a whole nother part of Connecticut that you and I both haven't really dove into. It's far away, and we just haven't, done too much work in that area yet. But Casey Norton fights out of Connecticut, and he's a flyweight. I think he's about like 6 or 8 fights into his pro career, maybe a little less, maybe like 6 fights. But he's fighting on the card too. Some more Connecticut blood out there tonight.
Where's he fighting out of? What part do you know?
I forget exactly where the gym is, but I want to say the gym is up by like the Hartford area.
Okay.
Maybe even closer to Massachusetts, Enfield, Suffield area.
Yeah. Okay.
But he's fights out of Ascension, and I forget the coach is Jeff Haddad, and I don't know a ton about the gym, but I have a lot of respect for those guys, and yeah, he's on the card too. So we got a couple Connecticut fighters tonight.
But once again, like, back to you're fighting in the middle of Times Square on Friday night of the summer, and it's just like,
what an experience.
If you as a fighter can't get excited about this, I mean, I'm excited. I'm not even fighting.
Bro.
I know you are. We've been talking about it all morning, right?
Yeah.
We're going back and forth here, right? Let's talk about Justin. I mean, from my aspect, and I'll let you jump in here in a second. Justin, that whole team over there is just a bunch of, great guys. I mean, Justin Sumpter works a full-time job, husband, father, personality, work ethic, humble, respectful, hard-working guy. I mean, it's exciting to see. He had a tough fight on the last CES card. No, it wasn't CES. LFA card, right? With one of Glover Teixeira's guys, Barbosa. Didn't happen his way that night, but he comes back and he gets a great opportunity. I mean, this is why you got to love combat sports, because you know what? Okay. And now you're coming back into a big showcase.
I mean, it's awesome, because you're right. He didn't get to show himself last fight out. It wasn't his night, but that's the beauty of this sport, man, is like, just because it's not your night one night doesn't mean you can't come back in 2 months, 3 months, and it's your night. That's how MMA boxing works, because of styles and matchups and stuff like that. Like, Justin's back, better than me, but he's been in the gym working hard, and I had my pleasure of doing an interview with him the other Tuesday night. Yeah,
you
Tuesday
were down
night
at FAA.
Yeah, and I tapped into his mindset a little bit. Thought, wanted to see how he felt about things like fighting in the city, in the guard, or in Times Square with all the air pollution and noise and stuff like that. Dude's excited, obviously everybody's going to have to deal with breathing in and fighting through that New York air. But I feel like, nobody's at an advantage or a disadvantage, because the situation is the same for everybody. But I'm curious to see how that plays out across the card in any fight. We
got a warm night tonight. There's a lot of factors there. But, you talk about that. I'm just going to interject one thing here, right?
It's interesting.
So years ago, right, maybe not so much now, because a lot of the fights don't happen. But years ago, when you fought in a casino, people smoked.
Yeah.
So like if you talk to fighters who had to fight in a casino
years ago,
where they didn't necessarily have an arena,
right?
People were smoking.
Yeah,
there were smoke-filled areas. It's a tough dynamic when you don't smoke. But yeah, there's a lot of factors that are going to play in. Honestly,
everybody's got an even playing field.
I think these guys are professionals. They're going to be ready to go no matter what. They're going to be excited to fight. We got some good fights on there. The card. The players in there. Justin's fight is not an easy fight, as we know.
Right.
And I know he's anxious to show out after his last performance wasn't what he wanted to let the fans see that he's capable of doing. He has worked hard. He's in great shape. He was on weight the other night when I left there Wednesday night. So, he's not stressing about that. He was in a good spot. I feel, from a coach's standpoint, I think Justin's ready. I think we're going to see a different Justin Sumpter tonight. I think, his performance, if he does what he's been working on, he should walk out of there victorious, to be perfectly honest with you. But I like where he is mentally, physically, you know, look, he's always in shape. He's
Yeah.
always working hard. He's there. So you know what? I'm excited for this tonight, and you know, it is a great event for us to be part of, to be honest with you. But hopefully this event keeps it going in the New York area, and we get to see more of this. Maybe not so much in Times Square, but, you know, for everybody to see this.
That's what I mean, yeah.
It's just a big event.
It's going to be a special night. I can't wait. I'm honored to be there. I'm excited to be a part of the inaugural event, you know, and it's even cooler for me to see a guy like Justin Sumpter fighting on this card, a guy that you and I have both had the pleasure of being around for quite a while now. And, you know, you've coached him through a couple camps, and I've interviewed him before a bunch of his fights. So it's just cool to see. Couldn't be more happy to see a local guy like him get an opportunity, especially an opportunity to bounce back. And I know he's going to, that holds some value to him too, because like you said last time out, he wasn't able to show the true fighter he is.
And you know what, Justin's not taking. I don't want people to take this. He's not taking easy fights. His opponents are skilled and experienced opponents that he's taking.
Yeah,
you know, so like, you know, he is out there wanting to prove himself and show himself the skill that he has.
Yeah,
he's been around the game, you know, for a while.
Two-time Dana White Contender Series appearances.
Yeah, so, you know, I'm excited to see his performance and see some of the other fights on tonight. Although I don't know too many of the players, I am learning them.
You'll see some good fights tonight
as we go along. But, you know, I'm anxious to see, one, how this whole promotion plays out.
Bro, outside in New York City, I got a lot of questions, but I'm going to figure them all out. I'm going to get them answered firsthand in person. See how this thing goes, man.
Yeah, no, it's you know what? It's like again. I mean, we're almost through August, and we've had a busy month here. You know, I'll get into. You know, I had Zach Kalmus out of Massachusetts on bare knuckle 2 weeks ago. Unfortunately, it didn't work out our way. You know, he had a medical stoppage with his eye. It looked like he maybe caught an elbow, and the doctor, his eye was closed, stopped the fight, unfortunately. But, you know, Zach's a warrior, another local guy working out of our area that we've been blessed to work with in our network. And then now, tomorrow night, we got Cordell Booker in Massachusetts.
Yeah, Cordell's taking on Boston, the Booker times Boston experience.
Yeah, he's fighting on the Nolan Brothers card. Tough opponent.
Yeah.
You know, I believe he's 45-4 or 45-1 or something.
45-8.
8.
Yeah.
Okay.
Patrick.
Yeah. Alaloite out of Africa. You know, Cordell's coming off a tough loss to Fundora, which, hey, my hat goes off to the guy taking that fight. You know, Fundora at 154 is a tough opponent, tall, lanky.
Yeah.
You know, Cordell, hats off to him, man. He prepared himself. It didn't go his way, but he's back in the ring tonight, looking to redeem. And, you know, still got gas in the tank. I know you interviewed him and you saw him train a little bit.
Yeah.
I spoke to him. I saw him spar about 2 weeks ago. We were up with Quentyn Paisley before his fight, sparring. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too. I'd love to see Cordell back at the world title stage and doing the big thing. And I know it only, like I said to you earlier, you got to get yourself back to that big stage. You got to fight tough guys. And I think Patrick Alate from Ghana is going to bring a challenge to him, and Cordell's got everything he needs to go out there and perform. So it's going to be a fun time in Boston. I'm going to go up there with the PG Sports crew tomorrow, check it out, and experience that too, the main event, Nolan Brothers in Boston. I'm looking forward to it too, another promotion that I haven't gotten to check out. One of the coolest things for me at this point is I've been to so many different promotions and watched so many MMA and boxing shows. So to go out there, check out a new promotion and get that whole experience, I look forward to that type of stuff at this point. And of course, like I said, once again, cool to see a guy from Connecticut, a guy that I've had the pleasure of being around like Cordell Booker, and a guy that I've been able to interview so many times. Get to watch another one of his fights.
Listen, Cordell is, you know, he's always prepared, tough fighter, experienced fighter. He's been around.
Oh,
okay? Yeah. He's been around. He's still got gas in the tank. He's out there, you know. Look, it's going to be interesting to see what happens after this fight. I don't want to put the cart get ahead of the horse, excuse me. But you know what? Different opportunities hopefully could happen for Cordell after this fight. I think he proved himself in the Fundora fight. You know, not an easy fight to take from any fighter, okay?
Right.
He stepped up, took it. It is what it is. And now he's back again, you know, reinventing his career because, you know, he came back and he put a lot of time and effort in fighting up on CES. And now he is where he is. We wish him a lot of luck. That Boston crowd is a totally different crowd than us down here. So, you know.
Yeah, I don't know. Hopefully that he has their support.
I think he does. You know what? So Cordell has a good support group.
Yeah.
A lot of people come with him. So, you know, that. Back to you. I know you're with PG Sports right now. Shout out to Paul Garino over there and his team. How is that for you, and how'd that come about?
So Paul and I have been friends for a while now. You know, there's a lot of great fighters that, you know, if it's inevitable for people like me, you, Paul, like we're all going to clash at some point, right? So me and Paul, we've been cool for quite a while. I've traveled to a lot of events with him, and, you know, we go out to watch some shows together and stuff. And one day we just kind of were joking around like, oh, how about, you know, Dylan, you join the PG Sports crew. And I was messing around with him. I was like, yeah, bro, like, you know, I'll become an agent. You know, I'll try to find some dudes, some matchups. I'm going to become the matchmaker. And I was just messing with him. And he took it, you know, he knew I was joking, but he took it for real. And the next morning I woke up and I had a PG Sports contract, you know, on my phone. And I didn't expect it, you know, but I signed it because Paul's my guy. And if you know, it's not an agent agreement. It's more of a marketing agreement that Paul's going to try to help me out and help me find some sponsors. You know, it's a 2-year deal. So it's got some real formulation to it. It's a real contract.
Yeah, well, that's good because you're growing in the sport, and honestly, like you're evolving from when you first started. Now you're starting to gain a little traction, which is really it's good to see.
Yeah,
you're very knowledgeable in it, and you know what? It's a natural transition that if someone could help you along and open some doors for you, it's definitely you know. And you put yourself out there, you know. Right here now for what we've been talking about. So, you know, Dylan and I are going to try to do a once a month or here recap on, you know, everything on the combat sports on, you know, whether it's UFC, boxing, local athletes, you know,
whatever.
Hopefully we can maybe get some guys in here locally, whether they be coaches or trainers or fighters.
Yeah.
And kind of like question them up, talk to them. See where they're at in the sport. But last event, we got UFC Chicago tomorrow night.
Oh, man.
I know you're dying to talk about that.
Yeah.
And I'm going to let you take over on that because that's in your wheelhouse right there. So give us the spiel on tomorrow night.
Yeah, so there's so many exciting fights on that card, and like honestly, I could probably tell you one or two cool things about each fight. But if there's a few that come to mind that I want to speak about, it would be, of course, the main event. You have the champion, the middleweight champion, Dricus du Plessis. He's taking on Khamzat Chimaev, the undefeated. So this fight right here is very interesting because I feel like Khamzat, people have been wanting to see him fight for a title forever. He's kind of like the dark horse, if you will. Like everybody knew he was good, but he never got that title shot, and he worked hard for it. You know, I don't think he had to overwork for it. I think he just had to prove himself, and he did. But now he's fighting the champion in Dricus, who, you know, beat guys like Israel Adesanya and stuff like that. So Dricus has proved himself just as much, if not even more. He's got the belt. So it's an exciting fight. Dana White said yesterday in the press conference when he was asked how it's going to go, how the styles are going to match up and stuff. Like, that's the beautiful thing about this sport, bro. You got two guys who are so well-rounded, two guys that can not only wrestle, grapple, you know, submit each other, but these guys, they can strike it out too. They can have a war on the feet. So that's the beauty of MMA. Seriously, I'm excited for the main event between these two guys. Can Khamzat Chimaev dethrone Dricus du Plessis and be the champion and new? Or I also like the other fight that I like is Michael Venom Page versus Jared Cannonier. That's on the main card. I think it's like the featured bout right before the co-main, but that fight right there is gonna be super cool. I have to be honest, man, when I was younger, like before I even started watching before I started watching and covering MMA, I went to Mohegan Sun. My dad and I were there for a fishing convention, and Michael Venom Page was weighing in, his ceremonial weigh-in. His face-off was happening at Mohegan Sun because he fought there so much for Bellator. and his style, the way he presented himself, and just the fun that he brought to the weigh-in, because he brings a little bit of a character to himself too. It was super cool, and it caught my interest, and that's literally why I started watching started watching MMA, just because of this guy's face off. I think I was like 12 or 13. So to watch him, now he's in the UFC, he's fighting in these huge fights. So he's on the main card of the UFC 319 tomorrow night. Super cool. Looking forward to that fight. Jared Cannonier's no fighter to sleep on either. He's been around the sport. He's fought some of the best for years. So that's an exciting fight. What else you got? You got Carlos Cortez versus Neil Magny. Carlos Cortez has been a guy who been around the sport, forever. And Jeff Neal's been around the sport. It's Jeff Neal, not Neil Magny, but Jeff Neal's been around the sport forever. And he's like the gatekeeper of the division. Carlos Prates is kind of a newer, evolving Brazilian fighter, and he's a big knockout artist. So I'm looking forward to that fight too, because he's got the young guy with all the knockout power fighting the guy who, the gatekeeper they know him as, of the division. He's fought the best of the best, and he can strike too. So that's gonna be a fun fight.
Yeah, it's an exciting weekend here. With that, any predictions?
The Hamzat fight is tough for me. I think that Michael Venom Page is a bit bigger than his opponent Jared Cannonier, and I think his style's perfect. I think Michael Venom Page can do it. I think he will do it. Aaron Pico is another fighter that I didn't speak about in my little breakdown right there, but he's a former Bellator fighter too. He's making his UFC debut. He's fighting Lerone Murphy, who's undefeated, but I think Aaron Pico does enough to give him his first ever professional loss. And then about the rest of the card, we got some great fights. So I think the Dricus fight is 50-50. Aaron Pico gets it done, and I think Michael
All right, give me the
Page.
pick of the night. Come on.
Pick of the night.
You gave me the analysis. Come on. You're dancing here.
The pick of the
Pick
night.
of the night. Give me the Dylan Napoleon pick of the night.
Sticking to my guns and Michael Venom Page.
All right. You heard it right here. Michael Venom Page. All right. Unfortunately, you'll catch this episode after the fight.
Yeah, but it's okay.
Let's see if this prediction comes out pretty good here. With that.
Michael Venom Page money line.
All right, money line. There you go. All right. DraftKings, if you're looking, we're looking for sponsors.
Yeah. We got a big wall right here.
You know what I'm saying?
We can put your name right there.
Yeah, whatever. We want to put your logo up there between both of us.
Yeah.
Get Paul on that right away. One other thing.
Mm-hmm.
I got to give this out, okay? Mm-hmm. Because she has been working with a woman that I know who owns Solar Wellness, Mercedes Singer, who I actually trained her and her daughter, and she has a recovery center. Mercedes has a recovery center in Brookfield, and whether you're a fighter or not, you should check it out. B12 shots, NOD. She has a hyperbaric chamber for recovery ailments. It is. I can't say more about it. All right, I've done it myself. I believe in what she's doing. I believe whether you're a fighter or an individual, you should use it. But that's Alex Pereira's sister, coming off a big win.
Yeah.
Also.
Yeah. Oelli Pereira.
Right.
Yeah.
So she is. I know has worked with Mercedes in some of the recovery aspect.
Oh,
of it.
okay. Yeah.
I want to give her some accolades. Okay, because, I'm sure she stands in the shadow. And I don't know her. I haven't met her. But I understand one thing. When you come from a family of athletes and there's one that maybe is the one that outshines everybody. Everybody knows. But I saw clips of her fight.
Yeah, bro.
She's no joke.
No, I've been there to watch her fight. And
You've seen her in person?
Dude, yeah, she's fun to watch, man. She's the Karate Combat champion right now. So she has a world title fight just like her brother. And Alex coached her through her Karate Combat career thus far. And they won that world title back, I think, like a month ago or so. Yeah. And, yeah, man, she's special, bro. I think I just want to see her keep fighting, because now that she's finally has a promotion that's letting her be herself and really helping her get fights and opportunities and stuff like that. Now that she has what she needs in order to be the fighter she is, I think the future is gonna be cool. And I just love seeing the fact that Alex is the Pereira.
Yeah,
But
of
look
course.
what she's doing. You know what I mean? Look at what she's doing. She's the one who's carrying the torch, and although she's not in the UFC, she's picked up so many fans all over the world because of that left hook and just her fighting style.
Her style and her, her attitude when it comes to fight. You gotta love that swagger.
She's a great person too. I have to put that in there too.
Yeah, I haven't had the opportunity to meet her, but I did want to give her a little bit of a shout out there because of the association with Mercedes. And I ask you one thing: do you think she'll segue to the MMA at some point, or she is where she is?
So I know she's really happy in karate combat. Actually, the karate combat is probably the best for her because we know they're strikers,
Yeah.
So if you get a promotion that lets you strike and also,
that exciting. She's an exciting
striker, and now she's a champion. So she's probably very happy where she's at, if I had to guess, because the rule set and the promotion fits her style so well. But I would personally love to see it. I don't know how what their thoughts
from a
are.
promotional aspect, right? If you're Dana White, right?
Yeah, they might have their eyes on her.
That conversation had to be had somewhere along the line because, if you're promoting, Alex Pereira and then to put her on the undercard, a brother-sister combination. Where have you seen that?
It would be huge.
Where have you seen that?
I haven't seen it, to be honest.
In any combat sport.
Yeah,
probably
I
not.
know.
And at that level.
I
right?
know
At that level.
she trains her grappling and her submissions and stuff like that all the time. She trains at an MMA gym, so she's rolling and training with people that are looking for submissions and looking to take her down and stuff. She definitely knows how to. She's fought professionally MMA before, so I know she knows how to grapple and stuff like that. I think maybe one day, and I would love to see it.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Well, we'll keep you posted on that. So listen. Once again, I can't thank you, Dylan. I'm really excited to launch this off with you. As far as this, and like I said, once a month we're gonna recap combat sports, whether it be UFC, local events, boxing. Right now, not only in our state, we've just been blessed with a lot of people out there. You heard the names today, all out there. There's many more out there. Listen, we want you, coaches, athletes, promoters. Text us, call us, email us on our social media. Reach out to us. Help us help you, okay? Dylan's out at the shows. I'm working corners. We're accessible to you guys. We want to bring more notoriety and give you guys the accolades that you guys need for your gyms and fighters and everything else. So when you guys see us again, we will recap tonight's event.
Yeah, we're going to have to now that we've shared so much about it.
Dylan will be working it from the press side tonight, so he will be putting clips out and follow-ups after this event, and tell everybody again where you are on social media. Yeah.
So tonight's coverage, you guys won't see it. You won't see this video until afterwards, but if you want to backtrack a little bit, tonight's coverage will show on my personal Instagram page, Dylan Napoleon MMA. And then depending on coverage, I don't know what the setup's going to be like, if we're going to have post-fight interviews and stuff like that. But depending on all that, Cage Side Press 2, I just have to see what I get in terms of content and coverage to really know where it's all going to go. But I know there will be a lot on my Instagram page. Anything that should be shared on Cage Side Press will be there too. And then I also write a few articles here and there for Home of Fight, which is another big outlet. And I already told the guys there, this is a monumental night. This is a inaugural event. So if there's anything that you guys would like to pick up, I'm happy to supply the content.
You heard it. Look for the content. I will probably clip some events from this also with Dylan on Coach David Champs Boxing on Instagram and TikTok. So look for that stuff there. We'll give you some little teaser clips till we talk again and kind of go over this. And, we're excited for this. Is it streaming tonight? Well, it's going to be too late. But it doesn't really matter. But you know what? Maybe they'll catch the stream after. But, please... like I said, reach out to us. You have any questions, you want to be a guest, either one of us on Instagram, YouTube, you got my email. Also want to shout out my sponsors, Farmer Strength, my guy Dan Gray from Get Elevated, who we're going to have on one day too, doing some great things on the combat sports side with apparel, Foundation RX in Brookfield, Danny and Sue Ann I'm sorry, Joe and Suan up there. My apologies. A little tongue-tied now. But, for all your, supplements, meal prep, they got the Hummus Fit food up there. It's great. Give them a shout. They'll help you out in your training and everything else. My company now, Boxing Supply Boxing.supply on Shopify. Got all your corner needs, tape, gauze, scissors, you name it. We're there for you guys. We're in your corner for every fight. Once again, Coach Dave McDonough, Coach's Corner Podcast. Train hard, train smart, and we'll see you in the next round.